Well, welcome to our first NAL ED Talking Circle of the grant year. Thank you for joining us this Thursday. We're going to play our quick disclaimer to start us off. This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred. All right, so now you've all been officially disclaimed. Today, as we spend the next hour or so together, we're going to take a little time to do some introductions. Our goal with these talking circles is that you have the opportunity to get to know each other, to get to know the OIE team, the OIETA team, and that we can really do lots of sharing and discussion and working together throughout the year. So we want to take some time during this first talking circle to do a little getting to know you. We'll also have some time for some brainstorming and discussion, a little bit of talk about the GEPRA measures. And then we also want to make sure that you're aware of some of the other TA events coming up over the next few months. As we go through, this is a more informal session. So don't feel like you have to wait till the end for an official question time. Feel free, put those questions over in the chat box. Let us know if you have questions as we go along. We really want this to be a time for you to get your questions answered and engage in conversation. And with that, I want to introduce you to your new program officer, Jennifer Leo.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jennifer Leo, and I hope you can hear me. Can everyone hear me? Yes, great. Okay. I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know a little bit about me. So I have worked for a long time in Indian education. I was a Title VI coordinator for 7 years, and I've worked with urban Indian centers. I've worked at the college level, doing a lot of different things with creating opportunities for natives through scholarships and college access. I've worked most recently with the Urban Indian Center here in Southern California, where I live. And so I've had a lot of experience kind of doing probably what some of you do. And so for me, finding opportunities for students and creating places where students can thrive and excel is kind of a lifelong passion, and it's something that only certain people are even drawn to. So I think moving forward, I'm really excited to connect with you and kind of learn about your programs and see what it is that you're doing. And so just excited to get to know you.
Thanks, Jennifer. And I know you'll all be getting to know her a lot better as we go through the grant year. And then I also want to introduce you to your OIETA team. So some of these may be familiar faces. I think I've met everybody on the call before, but you may not have had an opportunity to meet everybody. So on with us today, we have Kathleen Bethke, who is the project director with the TA team. And then we also have Olani Lilly, that you may have met on some of our distance learning sessions this year, and Tracy Madej Kara-George, who you may have also met on some of the distance learning sessions thus far this year. And then not able to join us, but who you've probably at least seen emails from, is the other Sarah, as we say, Sarah Whitehead, who is often on all of these helping out with the chat box and helping all of you with any tech issues, and then also sending out lots of calendar reminders and invites and things. So while we have other members of the team as well, these are probably the ones that you'll be interacting with the most over the next year. And then there's all of you. So we have 3 different cohorts of grantees right now within NAL ED. We have our fiscal year 17 group, which includes 2 grantees who are on a no-cost extension into a little bit longer project period. We also have 2 of our fiscal year 17 grantees who wrapped their projects and are now fiscal year 20 grantees. We have 1 grantee who is part of fiscal year 18 with Albuquerque Public Schools. And then we have our new cohort for fiscal year 20. And it's really exciting because with the inaugural programs, even through the 2 cohorts, we were represented by 6 different programs. And now with fiscal year 20 and all of the new awards, we have 11 programs. So we've basically doubled the number of programs in the NAL grant project. So I want to tell you a little bit of information about your fellow projects, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and your team. So I wanted to give you a heads up so you can be prepared and thinking about that and mulling over whether you might want to get on camera to do your intros as well. So between our various cohorts, you can see we're represented in a number of states. We have programs in Alaska, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And in some of those, we actually have multiple programs. So we've really been able to branch out into a lot more states. We're really excited about that, and to give you an idea what other programs might be somewhat near you. So as we look at our programs, and I will send out these slides after, so don't feel like you have to frantically copy this down if you want to get to know your fellow grantees a bit more, but you'll see just a little bit of information about your fellow programs, not only their organization, but also what state they're in, so that breakdown, and the various instructional languages. And you can see the wide variety of languages that are now being covered, anything from Oneida to Navajo. We have a couple of programs approaching Navajo, a couple with different Apache languages, Blackfeet, Dakota, Lakota, Shoshone and Paiute, Ojibwe, 2 Athabascan languages, Danaka and Binti Kokatana Kanaga, Yupik, Unangan. I'm not sure 100% that I've got that pronunciation down quite yet, but I will work on it little by little. That's always the goal. So you can see lots and lots of diversity of language here, and lots of diversity in grade level. So I always think this is particularly helpful because if you're going to be talking with any of your peers and you want to talk to others who are maybe encountering some of the same challenges or trying to work on similar program pieces, I think it's helpful to know who's working on those particular grade levels with you. So you can see anything from programs that are focusing primarily on preschool, some that are doing the full age span, or just high school, or just elementary. So we've really got a nice mix of grade levels that we're going to be working with throughout this program. Now that's just a little brief demographic info. It doesn't tell you a ton about your fellow grantees. So we want to give you an opportunity to actually introduce yourself. So if you, I don't think anybody has their team on with them today, but feel free to mention the other team members that are part of your crew. Remember, the talking circles are open, so if you would like for any other members of your team to participate in the talking circles as we move into the upcoming months, please feel free to share that with them and get them to join. They are always welcome. But we will go down and I will just kind of run through as I see you on my screen. If you'll introduce yourself and your role, and again, any other important team members that might be joining us, and tell us a little bit about your project. Tell us, where you're located, who you're serving, your language and age group, and just a couple of sentences, what are you primarily trying to accomplish through your NAL project over the next 3 years? So I'm going to start top of my screen with John.
Miigwech, Sarah. Bonjour, everybody. John Bobolink, Indijini Kaz, Gazaga Squad, Jamaica, Gindujiba, Maing and Dode. Happy to be here with you today. I'm John Bobolink. I work with the St. Paul Public Schools in the Indian Education Program. This is the first year for us with the NAL grant, and our primary focus is enhancement with our Dakota language. I'm really proud in St. Paul Public Schools that our district has embraced and understand the importance of revitalizing native languages here in Minnesota. I think we've got a fairly good program with Ojibwe, but we noticed that our Dakota was a little bit lagging. And so by applying for the NAL grant, we're hoping to bring our Dakota language up to par with our Ojibwe language. But I'm really proud. You know, I can't think of another school that offers two distinct native language tracks, pre-K through 12. So really proud of that work. Our focus with the Dakota really is to really expand our Dakota language instructors. That's definitely a huge need. But at the same time, we also want to introduce curriculum material written in Dakota, not just in language, but in all of our content areas: science, math, English, arts. And we're concentrating this at one of our American Indian Magnet schools. That is a K-8 school. We do have a K-12 program, and so they will receive some of our benefits of this grant, materials and design in the language, but we're going to concentrate at the elementary with the NAL grant. So, miigwech, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, John. All right. Now we'll head over to Matthew.
Petuaste, Tayawati Kapi, Matthew Rima Machiapi, Elo, Nice, Wazia Haha, Elwati, Makpia Luto, Waiwa, Elwa, Washi, Chama. So, my name is Matthew Rama. I'm from Red Cloud School on the Pine Ridge Reservation. What we're looking to do is we've had a pilot program for a couple of years with another organization. So those kids actually went to an immersion preschool, and now they're in 4th grade. A year ago, Red Cloud as a school decided that they were going to move to dual immersion K-12. So with this grant, we're hoping to strengthen our curriculum K-5, strengthen our teacher core, really help enhance and create and modify the things that we've done earlier to really have a high level of instruction for our K-5 students. So right now we currently have kindergarten and 1st grade that are in dual immersion, and then we have a 2nd through 4th grade track of 18 kids that have been in immersion since kindergarten. So we're really excited about this grant and the possibilities, and really the idea of looking at education for Native Americans and for Lakota kids in a different lens. We've had a lot of success. We felt like a lot of testing success and things like that early on with our older kids, and so we want to continue that as a school and maybe as a model for other schools in Lakota Makoche. So Tayawachi Kapi, Tayawahi. I look forward to talking more.
Thank you. And random question, just because I know a bit more about your school, but are you doing it at both campuses?
Yeah, we're doing it. So we have 2 campuses. So the main campus, Red Cloud, has kindergarten and 1st grade. Mm-hmm. And then the OLL campus has just kindergarten this year. So It's their 1st year. And definitely not the ideal way to start the immersion we've been online since March. We still haven't went back to school. So that's been really a battle, but I think that they've done the best they can and have done a good job of staying in the language and try to be innovative and try to find ways to maintain and stay in the language and teach. But I don't know, we're going to be better when we get back to school from all the stuff that we've had to create from being online, but it's definitely more difficult. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, starting kindergarten online is a big enough challenge, and then to add in language and for the first time, big challenge, but amazing how the teachers have responded.
Yeah, thank you. So
all right, let's head over to Brandon.
Thanks, Sarah. Good morning, everyone, or it's still morning here in Alaska. My name is Brandon Locke, and I am the World Language and Immersion Director for the Anchorage School District. And we are fortunate to be in the fiscal year 20 cohort, but we started in the fiscal year 2017 cohort. We launched UPIC immersion in the Anchorage School District. UPIC is one of 20 official languages in Alaska, and it's also the most prevalent in terms of number of speakers. So our original program was designed to launch dual language immersion, so a 50-50 model in UPIC in one of our public schools, open to any student. And we started that in kindergarten 3 years ago. We're up to second grade now. And so our continuation, or our new grant, I should say, is designed to continue that path, adding grades 3, 4, and 5. And one of the main focuses or foci of our current project is really building in that parental support as well. And one of the things that we learned first time around was that many of our students, well, about a third of our students come from UPIC families in terms of heritage, but not necessarily speakers of the language. Another third are Alaska Native of a different type of tribe, but are still looking for something for their students. And then actually a third of our kids are completely non-Native altogether and are just in the program and learning with everyone else. So it's been great. But we did get feedback from a lot of parents saying, I'd really like to be able to speak UPIC myself and to communicate with my kids. A lot of generational trauma has occurred, and so we've got grandparents that speak the language, but parents that don't. And so really partnering with our community partners in the grant, as well as the University of Alaska, to offer some UPIC language courses for parents or family members. And then also working with some professors from the University of Minnesota who did a lot of work with the Ojibwe community on developing some, like family engagement plans, if you will, things to really engage the family members. And so we are going to be putting together those resources in the UPIC language as well. So that's my story.
That is.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Brandon. All right, let's go over to Rena. And Rena, if you're not able to unmute, oh, there you go.
Good morning or good afternoon.
Yeah, either one.
Let me get my Mr. Agut she Rena Mendes Huntia Mashkala Ashti Mashkala Biket Yashi Eraguchi I Naisi Standa Kustani Quishna Raisi El Chinda Chera in Debisa Iberagu. Good morning, my name is Rena Mendes. I work for the Musclara Apache tribe. Our tribal school runs from kindergarten to 12th grade, and we have Apache language for each grade level. We have 7 teachers throughout the school, and the NAL grant came in very handy because we're going to be able to hire 6 more teacher assistants to work with our teachers, which I think will be really awesome. We're getting them ready so that when we get back into the classroom, we can have all our teachers set up to where they can work together, communicate, and also talk with each other in class so that the children will be able to catch on. Hopefully, they'll be able to catch on and grasp our language back. We've been doing good for the past years until this COVID pandemic came across, and now we're online. And as most of you know, we're all having a hard time with online teaching. So some of us are not technology savvy. So we're really having a hard time. And I look back from right now to last year, I would have never been right here where I'm at if this pandemic didn't come across. So in a way, I say I'm thankful because at least now I can keep up with what's going on in our modern lives out in the world. We know now more of what's going on and how to teach our children. Our children are also, we're having a hard time, but we're all working together to communicate and help each other. So we've come a long ways, and we're going to try and enhance on our curriculum. We're working to add more things to it as we grow, and as we got this grant, we're gonna use that to have more training. We already got our consulting assistant online, and we're zooming, and zooming is also another thing. Some of us are not, we're camera shy. we're not used to being in the spotlight like this.
Yes.
And a lot of my teachers are real shy. And when we first started, they were just recording and then giving it to the regular classroom teacher, and the regular classroom teacher would present it for them. But from January, when we went back to school, the school board told us no more recording. That's just for absenteeism. Now you have to be live on screen every day. So now all the teachers are teaching live, and they're still getting used to it. And I get on class with them, and I help some of them teach. And so I'm not just a director. I teach with the teachers. And when one of them are gone, instead of getting an outside sub, I jump in there and I teach for them. So I have to be in class with them in order to know where they're at, so that I'm not off the subject from what they're doing. I try to keep it in collaboration together to help them. So I noticed that a lot of the teachers are comfortable now with teaching online, and they're doing a great job. Like I said, we've come a long ways, but if it wasn't for this pandemic, we won't be this much ahead now. We know what our kids or grandkids are doing now. We don't have to ask them for help. We can do it ourselves. But at the beginning, we did have a hard time, and up to date, we're still getting training with our computer techs that work at the school. They're willing to help us. And we were also assigned a computer tech who comes in with us on Monday. So we Zoom with them and they help us. And there's times when he can't teach us online. So we have to go to the school, social distance, and he does presentations for us to help us to learn techniques to work with the laptops.
Yeah.
So we really learned a lot, and it's like no choice. You have to do it. So you know what? It happened, and we don't have a choice, and we have to move on. And we were really reluctant about putting our language online, but now that we don't even have a choice, we have to in order for our kids to learn. And I found out that being online like this, a lot of the students are getting on with their family, and it's getting the family involved. And that's what I really like, because there's times when I'm online and the parents will come on and they'll ask me questions, or how do you say this? How do you do this? And it's getting the family involved. And that's what I like about it, so that they can all work together. They will have the students take journal notes. And so with that, it's helping the family to get involved with what the children are doing. So that's the good thing about it. So we're praying that the pandemic goes away, and we're praying for the kids to come back to school so we can be able to all come together as one. And hopefully when the pandemic is gone, we will get more parent involvement now that they see and know what we're doing in school. They've seen it for themselves now. So hopefully they'll be more comfortable to come to school and be with the kids and help us to all work together as a community. That's what we want.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for having this online workshop. And these things are interesting to us too. So thank you to all of you, and you all be safe. And like we tell the kids, wear your mask and wash your hands. So one thing we don't have a word for in Apache is mask. So what we do is we just tell them, make sure your face is covered and make sure you wash your hands. So we go over those techniques with them in Apache too. So most of them are catching on. So that's the good thing of it. And with all the other languages from the other tribes. I don't know if you all have run into these problems where you don't have a word for something. We just have to describe what it is and talk to the kids, and they kept on to the language. So with that, I just want to say, God bless all of you and take care. Thank you.
Nathan. Yep. I love your glass half full view. Yeah. COVID has definitely thrown all of us a big wrench in what we thought our plans were for the last year. But yeah, we're learning lots of new technology. We're getting very innovative. And I love that more of your families are getting involved because they're right there. They're hearing it. They're really starting to work on their language as well. So it's a great kind of bonus to a situation that none of us really asked for. But I'm with you. I'm looking forward to when we can all be back in the classrooms with the kids in person. So yes, hopefully soon. Thank you. So we have a bit of a cozy group today. So I want to pop back just to kind of briefly talk to you about the folks who weren't able to join live today. So additionally, we do have, I'm going to start from the bottom, another Alaskan grantee, Yukon Koyukuk. They're one that was part of the fiscal year 17 crew and then have stuck around for 20. And same thing with Waduka-Dotting. You'll see here the Lakudere Ojibwe tribe and Waduka-Dotting. Those are the same school entity, just under two different portions of their entity. So they're another of our long-running grantees. And then also new this year, we have the Shoshone-Paiute tribes, Oneida Nation, the Navajo Preparatory School, Browning School District there in Montana, and then another Alaskan grantee, the Aleut community of St. Paul Island. And then two of our other returning grantees, the San Carlos Apache tribe there in Arizona. So another one working on Apache, and then Albuquerque Public Schools. So just to kind of at least give you a little idea, and then hopefully more of them will be able to join us when we do this in February, and you'll get to know them as well. So we have a little activity we're going to do because there are not a ton of us, and I know a few of us are joining from a mobile device. You're welcome to either do this on screen, so you'd be able to actually put your name on one side or the other to vote, or if it's going to be easier, you're welcome to either unmute and say your answer or put it in the chat box, depending upon what device you're on. But, you know, is your program brand new, or are you expanding on an existing program? And I think a lot of you covered this in your intros. See, I see Matthew must be our Zoom pro. He's already on the screen. Perfect. Yeah, so I believe, and again, unmute and tell me if this is incorrect, but I believe we are all expanding on our existing program. I don't think any of us that are on right now are brand new grantees. All right, so we'll clear this one. And our next get to know you vote. Have you already started your grant activities? So if you were adding new classes, or you were adding new grade levels, or you were adding new staff, is that already up and running? Or are you currently in that preparing part where you're going to be starting? And this is particularly in regards to the things that are part of this particular NAL grant. And again, whatever's easier, you can annotate on the screen. If you're looking to annotate on the screen, if you look at the top of your screen, it should say you are viewing Sarah Brightwell's screen, or it may say you are viewing OIETA team's screen. And then next to that, it'll have a little button with a drop-down menu, usually says view options or more. And under there is annotate. And that will give you a little toolbar of ways that you can write on the screen, just like Matthew's been doing. So let's see, are we up and running, or are we getting ready? All right, so far it looks like we have Red Cloud over in the up and running. And Anchorage over in the preparing. Oh, you're trying to go on the up and running, just wasn't. Sometimes the tools get away from you. All right, what about Rena? Are y'all up and running with your grant activity? Yes. And John, have y'all started as well? I know it's harder for you because I think you're on a cell. Yeah. Mostly preparing. Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah. So it looks like mostly up and running, and then St. Paul Public Schools getting ready to ramp up and start soon. All right, I'm going to clear these. We're going to go to our next one. Is your program virtual right now, or is it in person? And I know this is sometimes an ever-changing piece. Sometimes we think we're one and we're another, and then it moves again. From the intros, I'm thinking a lot of us are still virtual, which tends to be the case. So, all right, looks like Red Cloud is virtual. I know, Rena, you said y'all are virtual. St. Paul is virtual. Oh, but starting in person next week. And Anchorage started face-to-face last week. And yeah, Brandon was posting over that, yeah, they just started face-to-face last week, but numbers are on the rise again. I think that's what a lot of us are seeing in our communities right now. I know it's that way where I live as well. So yeah, mainly virtual, with some of us headed back toward in-person, at least for a bit. All right, thank you. So I'm going to clear that off so that we can see again. I think these are sometimes just nice ways to kind of see who's in the same boat as us, who might be doing some of the same things that we're doing right now. And with that, I want to actually talk about another way that we would like to be able to continue discussion. So I'm going to put over in the chat box, as soon as the chat box likes me again, there we go, a link. If you're able to, great. If not, no worries. But if you're able to click it and look at it, I would suggest click it so you can see it now. You can even start typing in it now, but if not, you can always do this after event. But this is what we call a Padlet. It's an online tool that any of you could use with your staff or your students as well. But it's basically an online either pin board, discussion board, however you want to think of it. We want to use it as more of a discussion board. So we really want to be able to continue this conversation and use some of this information in our upcoming other webinars and talking circles. So on here, we have a couple of questions ready. Where can we go to learn more about your program? So like I said, it's always really great to get to know your fellow grantees and what's going on in their program. So if you have a social media page, maybe a Facebook page, post a link to it there so we can check it out. We can follow you and see the great things going on. If you have a website for your program, show us that. If you have maybe a pamphlet you've made that tells families about your program who might be interested, you can include that as a link. Lots of ways that you can, possibly show us a little bit about your program. And that way also, those who weren't able to join live today can do the same thing and you can learn about their programs too. The second question, how are you assessing your students' language progress and proficiency? And we're going to talk about this a little bit more on the next slide, but we'd love to know either how you're currently doing that, or maybe, part of your project is that you're figuring out how you're going to do that. So, love for you to share kind of what your thoughts are around that, where you are with that, so we can dive into that a bit more. The third one, what trainings or professional development are you providing for your staff? And it could be something that you're doing right now or that you have planned throughout the next, year or two, or it could be something that you've done in the past particularly since all of you are expanding on existing programs. Maybe it's a great training you've done in the past that might be of interest to some of your fellow grantees. So sharing those ideas. And then the last two are less share and more discuss, more give us your feedback. The first one being, what topics would you like to see included in future talking circles? So as we go throughout the year, let us know if there's topics that you hope that we can talk about or that you would like to do a group discussion around or a group brainstorm around. Let us know. That's where an easy way, even if it's 2 weeks from now and you encounter something, you're like, oh, I wish I could get together a group of native language programs and talk about this and get ideas. Well, let us know, and maybe we can do that in our next talking circle. And then the last one are just questions. So this is a spot you can post any question you might have, whether it's a question maybe you want feedback and ideas from the TA team or from your fellow grantees. Any other questions you might have, feel free to pop those up there. I get an email every time you post something, so don't think that it's going to sit there with no response until our next talking circle. I get an email each and every time, so I'll know that you've popped something in there. I do want to just switch over and show you, in case you haven't used a Padlet before, how that works. So I'm going to go actually live to the Padlet, and I can see someone has already started posting, and this gives me a great time to give you a tip. So you're welcome to sign in or not sign in, doesn't really matter. But if you're posting something, please put something so we know which grantee it is. So like Brandon, I know this is him because he's put ASD, so I know that's Anchorage School District. There's only about 14 of you, so you don't have to write out your entire thing. You can include this as Brandon. You can put ASD, I'll know that's Anchorage School District. You can put SPPS, I'll know that's St. Paul Public Schools, anything like that. But that way, if I need clarification on what you're talking about, or if you've posed a question, I know who to reach back out to, or Jennifer knows who to reach back out to. So just one little tip, but you can see, you just click this little plus mark, and it automatically will let you start typing whatever your information is. These little buttons along the bottom, this first one is where I can actually upload a file. So if I had, like I said, maybe a cute little pamphlet that I made about my program that I want to upload, you can do that. The second one is a link button. So if I want to link to something about my program, maybe you were featured on the news and you want to show us a cool news clip about you, or a link to an article or to your Facebook page, you can put that link in there. This one is where you can actually insert little images, which depending upon what we're talking about, you may have some cute image or video or something you want to pop in. And then the camera one is going to actually record me, which I don't really want to do right now, but it is an option. It is something else you can do. And then those three little dots just show you all the other options that you have available. So you see there's lots of different ways that you can include some information to answer any of these questions or to share anything about your program. If you have any trouble using it as you're going through, I'm going to erase that because that was not my real one. But if you have any questions as you're working on it or have any trouble with it, just let me know. And I'm happy to help, but ideally we'll all be able to contribute and post all of our things there and have some great conversation there as well in between these talking circles. All right, I'm going to pop back to our presentation here.
Sarah, it's Brandon. So is this Padlet going to be maintained? Are you just going to keep this active for everyone to add to whenever?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that way nobody has to be looking for new links all the time. We can just add more questions as they pop up throughout the year, and no one has to keep track of lots and lots of different links. You can just come here to discuss throughout the year. And this is another one where your team members are welcome to contribute as well. So as you're thinking about who else from your team you might want to ask to join these events, you can also think about who else you might want to add to the Padlet. All right. So we did want to just touch briefly upon the GEPRA. We're not going to dive into this too much because we're going to be talking about reporting in the coming weeks. But just to remind everyone that the NAL ED program does have 4 GEPRA measures, which are your Government Performance and Results Act measures, which basically means the 4 things that you have to report on each year of your grant project. And so the first one is the number and percentage of participating students who attain proficiency in a native language as determined by each grantee through pre- and post-session assessments of native language proficiency. And the 2 things that I really just want to point out to you in this initial GEPRA chat is that the main thing we're looking at with the number 1 is how many students have attained proficiency. Now, what does proficiency mean? That's up to you. You and your team will determine what proficiency is and how you want to measure that. So that brings me to the second point about this one, and that is when it says through an assessment of native language proficiency, there is not a specific assessment you are required to use. That's whatever assessment you and your team have chosen to use. And I know some of you are using your grant funds to actually develop an assessment or refine an assessment. But those are the 2 important things to remember about measure 1 is that we're looking for proficiency and we're looking for whatever assessment you have selected to use. For number 2, you're going to notice it's similar but different. So this one we're looking at progress. So the number who make progress in learning a native language. So again, you'd be using the same assessment as measure 1, but now we're just looking for who has made progress. Again, what does progress mean? That's up to you and your team. Do you want them to make a certain amount of progress? How much will that be? And when we get into talking about reporting a little more in depth in a few weeks, we can talk more about what that might mean and questions that you might want to think about in regards to that. But I just want to make sure from the get-go that you understand we're looking for proficiency with 1 and progress with 2, but those are locally determined measures. Then for number 3, that's the one looking at academic outcomes. So you'll see the number and percentage of participating students who show an improvement in academic outcomes as measured by academic assessments or other indicators. So again, there is not a specific academic assessment that you must use for measure 3. You'll want to look at what ways you measure academic achievement currently that would be most appropriate to use for this particular measure. And we can always talk through, what might work best and the pros and cons of different things. But that's really the heart of number 3 is academic improvement. And then number 4 is looking at attendance and specifically average daily attendance. So you'll see it's the difference between the average daily attendance of your participating students and the average daily attendance of all the students in a comparison group. Again, it's not a specific comparison group. It's up to you to think about what comparison group would be most applicable. And here's a big key for this one. And what comparison group do you actually have data for? Because we don't want to be picking a comparison group that we don't have easy access to that data, because then when it comes time to report, you're stuck. So we want it to both be a really good applicable comparison group, but also a comparison group that we can actually get the information we need in order to do our reporting. So like I said, we're gonna dive more into those, but be thinking about, what questions do you have around those GEPRA? What can we do to start preparing for the data collection and reporting that we'll need to do for our annual performance report this spring? And as you think of those questions, pop those over in that Padlet. That's a great place for us to start kind of thinking about what are our questions around the GEPRA and how we're gonna be able to report on these. But I wanted to at least put it on our radar before we head into that in the next few weeks. And then we're going to head into kind of wrapping. So we have about 9 minutes left. So I wanted to, in that time, share with you some of the other TA opportunities that we have available to you and to your team. So as we move on, I hope that you will brainstorm and share on that NAL ED Padlet and encourage your team to do so as well. Our next NAL ED Talking Circle session will be February 25th at 3 Eastern. So 3 Eastern, 2 Central, 1 Mountain, high noon Pacific, and 11 Alaskan. Then we've been doing a distance learning series. So if you haven't seen any of these webinars, every other week we are doing a distance learning webinar, and the topics change throughout the spring. If you've missed any of them and you would be interested in viewing them, they are recorded and available for you to watch the recordings. So just this last Tuesday, we had a great session on communicating with students and families and ways to do that in a distance learning environment. We talked about some good strategies and tools. Coming up in February, we have a session on engaging students offline. So particularly thinking about those students you have that, whether it's because they don't have internet access or they don't have the necessary hardware or they're just not getting online, how can we continue to engage with them and keep them engaged in learning? And then later in February, a session on collaborating both with your students and with your staff. So some strategies and tips and tools for being able to effectively collaborate online. And then the last event that I think would be particularly good to know about is our February OIE office hours. So we actually had that earlier today for January, and we'll have another one coming up in February. But this is an informal session where you can pop in and out anytime within that hour and ask any questions that you might have. We typically have on at least a few members of the OIE team, as well as the OIE TA team. So you have some of the program officers from the department, as well as some of the TA team members who can help answer questions and anything that you might have going on, get some feedback on that. So it's just a great time to be able to pop in with those. So those are some things that you have coming up. You'll also be seeing a calendar invite coming up soon for a session on project planning and reporting as we head into the season for annual performance reporting. That'll be an important one to get on your calendar and attend as well. And then the other date that I really want to point out is our upcoming project director meeting. We're really excited about our project director meeting. We are doing it virtually this year. It's going to be across 3 days, April 20th to 22nd, which is a Tuesday to a Thursday. And it'll be in the afternoons Eastern time to be able to that way accommodate and not have any of our Alaska or Pacific friends having to get up at dawn just to tune in to the PD meeting. So it'll be from 1 to 6:15 Eastern each day. There are breaks in there, so you won't be tied to your computer. You'll have little snack breaks, little walkabout breaks throughout in between sessions. But we have a great lineup that we're working on of presentations and opportunities for learning throughout those 3 days. So go ahead and save that date on your calendar. Each of you will be able to have 3 people from your team attend, including yourself. So really be thinking about who the right people would be to engage in that PD meeting. You know, it might be yourself. It might be someone that you have that's particularly heading up some of the implementation work. It might be your evaluator if you have one, or somebody from your budget office. So be thinking about who it is that you want to make up the team that will attend this. Also, as we think about that, you know, if you have anything in your program going on that you think is pretty cool, which I know a lot of you do have things going on in your program that are pretty cool, reach out and let me know. We would like to feature some of our grantees in some little video snippets or some little highlights. So, you know, let me know. I'm going to both put in the chat box, but I'll also be sharing contact info. But, you know, shoot us an email or pop it on the Padlet. We'll take it either way. And let us know, what are those neat things going on in your program that maybe we can highlight and share with other grantees at the PD meeting. It's a wonderful time to be able to share and to celebrate the things that we've been able to accomplish in our programs. So I want to go ahead and open it up for questions. As I open it up for any other questions you might have, I'm also going to pop a quick poll on the screen. If you don't mind fast fingering in an answer for me here about whether this has been a useful and beneficial time for you. And if anyone has any questions, please unmute and feel free to ask. And you're also welcome to pop it in the chat box if that's easier. All right, well, as we wrap up today, I want to thank you again for taking the time to join us. I hope this has been helpful for you. I look forward to spending more time with all of you as we go through. And here is all of your contact info so that you can get in touch with Jennifer. And I know she's excited to
Please
get
also, yes, I just wanted to make sure that you all know that I am looking very much forward to getting to know you. And I think a great way to do that is to just have kind of a one-on-one. So anyone who has the time and is interested, please reach out to me and let me know, you know, if you'd like to just set up a meeting and talk, you know, we can do it with cameras or without. But I think it really helps to be able to kind of put a face to a name and know who it is you're emailing. So it helps me. So please feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Jennifer. All right. Well, if no one has any other questions, then I invite you to join on the Padlet, join us on those upcoming events, and then we will see you on an upcoming session. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you. It was good. Appreciate it.
Thanks.